Okay, let's talk about one of the great, unspoken mysteries of modern life. Why are we all so tired? All the time. Seriously, this is our little deep dive into the universal paradox of chronic exhaustion. I mean, really think about it for a second. Your alarm goes off. You've supposedly just gotten a full night's sleep, but the very first thought that pops into your head is, man, I could really use a nap. If that sounds even vaguely familiar, well, you're in exactly the right place. Because here's the thing. It turns out this isn't some personal failing. It's not a you problem. It's an us problem. So yeah, welcome to the club. Membership is pretty much universal, and the main activity is just collectively wondering where all our energy went. So let's kick things off right at the beginning of the day with this just bizarre phenomenon, waking up already tired. Or, as I've started calling it, the 8-hour nap that felt like 8 minutes.
It's such a specific feeling, isn't it? You haven't made a single decision yet. You haven't even spoken to anyone, but that internal battery indicator is already flashing red. It's kind of like starting a video game on the final level with almost no health. Good luck.
All right, so this brings us to the real heart of the matter, the myth of doing nothing. We're going to take apart one of those days where you swear you just chilled, and we're going to find out where your energy actually went. You know the scene. Someone asks, "Hey, how was your day?" And you say, "Oh, it was fine. Pretty quiet. Didn't really do much." But is that true? Let's take a much closer look at what not much really means these days. See, this is the hidden work of modern life. Answering a few emails, okay, that's a task. But then you've got the worrying about the email you haven't answered yet. The tiny but significant decision of what to eat for lunch. The mental gymnastics of trying to keep up with 3 different group chats blowing up your phone. And my personal favorite? Productively thinking about maybe starting a task. Later. None of this feels like work, but guess what? It all costs energy. And this chart? It just nails it. The amount of energy we spend on the actual, tangible tasks is just a sliver compared to the massive amount we burn just thinking, planning, and worrying about them. The real work is totally invisible. You know, there's actually a name for this. It's called decision fatigue, and it's a real, documented cognitive thing. Your brain basically has a finite budget for making choices every day. And when you spend it all on these tiny little things like oat milk or almond milk in your coffee, there's just nothing left in the tank for the big, important stuff. And this is exactly how it happens. It's not one giant, overwhelming decision that drains you. Nope. It's a death by 1,000 paper cuts. Before you've even had breakfast, you've already made dozens of these little micro decisions that have started to chip away at your mental reserves for the rest of the day. The other big culprit here is something called context switching. Every single time you jump from, say, a work spreadsheet to a group chat about weekend plans to an article about some celebrity, your brain has to completely shut down one context and then load up a brand new one. It's incredibly inefficient and, you guessed it, absolutely exhausting. This is precisely why a day of multitasking can feel way more draining than 8 hours of focused, deep work. And all of this, it just builds and builds until you get to the evening. And this is where we hit the great tragic irony of modern exhaustion. You're finally done with the day, you're totally drained, but now you're too tired to actually rest. We all have these grand ambitions for our evenings, right? Tonight I'm going to read that book, I'm going to call my friend, I'll finally start that cool new hobby. But then our brain, completely out of decision-making juice, has other plans. And those plans mostly involve staring blankly, scrolling endlessly, and replaying our most awkward conversations from like a decade ago. I mean, just look at that tiny little sliver of actual relaxation. It's almost nothing. Most of our so-called downtime gets eaten up by these passive, totally non-restorative activities. We're not really relaxing. Our brains are just buffering. I think this quote just perfectly, beautifully sums up the entire situation. You don't have the energy to go out and be social, but you also don't have the energy to actively enjoy staying in. You're just there, stuck. Which brings us to our final section, the universal punchline. And honestly, if you take one thing away from all of this, let it be this simple fact. It is not just you. The constant pings, the endless fire hose of information, the pressure to be available and responsive 24/7, it all means that even when we're off, we're still on. Managing our digital lives has become this background process that is always running and it's always draining our battery. And here's the real kicker. The number of paid vacation days, the amount of official recognition you get for all of this invisible work, it's zero. A big, round zero. So, the crucial point is really this. Feeling this way, this bone-deep exhaustion after a day of supposedly doing nothing, it isn't a sign that you're lazy or that you're broken. It's not a personal failure. It's a completely logical reaction to the way our world is currently designed. So let's just end with this thought. Let's reframe this whole thing. What if our collective exhaustion isn't some bug in the system that we need to fix? What if it's a feature, a shared symptom of the very world we've all built together? Something to think about.